Hey guys, it's Alicia Rain and welcome back to my channel Rainy Reads. In today's video, I'm going to show you all of the books on my physical TBR. I know I filmed one of these videos sometime last year and I didn't start YouTube until July, so it wasn't that long ago, but I just thought it would be nice to start with one of these for the new year, even though this is going up in March, so it's not really going up at the beginning of the year, but it's okay. And I was going to film this downstairs, not in my room, because the lighting would be better, but I put all the books on my bed and I don't want to carry all of this downstairs, so we're just gonna do it here. I actually don't know the total number of books that I have yet. I just threw all the books on my bed, so at the end of this video I will count all of them and let you guys know the actual number of books that I have to read. And I'm not going to do this in any particular order. Everything's just kind of thrown up here, so I'm just going to make my way through the pile and share stuff with you guys. And I always butcher authors' names, so already apologizing in advance. I'm gonna try my best. First up is a manga series. This is the only manga that I have on my physical TBR right now, and this is 𝒂𝒒𝒔𝒕𝒄𝒉 by, I think it's Takahiro. I'm not super sure about that. I did watch the show, I binged it and I loved it, and it was a year or a year and a half ago, so there is some stuff that I forgot about, but I'm really excited to start reading this. I have volumes 1 through 10, and I believe there's 15 volumes, and then there's a other series called 𝒂𝒒𝒔𝒕𝒄𝒉, which I think is more to focus on backstory for characters, which I don't know if I'll collect that one, but I do want to get volumes 11 through 15 eventually, and I'm probably just gonna binge read all of these. I was thinking about making a video for it, so if that's something that interests you at all, let me know down in the comments. But yeah, I can't wait to revisit this story when I get the rest of the books for this series. Next is Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. I know this is a poetry book. I don't really know what it's going to focus on, but I did read The Sun and Her Flowers by this author last year and I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars, so I'm really excited to read this eventually. Next is The Unabridged Journals of Sylvia Plath. I've actually never read a book from Sylvia Plath, but I did want this. I just remember seeing people highlight so many things in here and I related to some of the stuff that I was seeing, so I don't know if I should read this first. I don't know if it'll like spoil some of the books that she's written, or if I should just like pick up the bell jar and some other stuff that she's wrote first. I don't know. If you've read Sylvia Plath and know anything about this or have read this too, let me know if I should read this first or wait and read some of her other works before I do this. This is the first of many first books in a series that I own. This is The Diviners by Libba Bray. I've read other books by Libba Bray before, and I don't know why I haven't read this one yet. I remember hearing so many amazing things. I think there's 4 books in the series, but I only own the first one. But at some point, I will read it. I just feel like I keep putting things off for certain seasons of the year and then I never get to it. I do want to read this during the spooky time, but we'll see, because I've been saying that for many years now and it hasn't happened yet. Next is Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare for the Infernal Devices series. Then we have The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Next is Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail by Ashley Herring Blake. Then we have Heartless by Marissa Meyer, one of my favorite authors that wrote the Lunar Chronicles series, and this is an Alice in Wonderland retelling. Next is Lonely Castle in the Mirror by Mizuki Tsujimura, I think is how you say the author's name, and I've heard really good things about this. I haven't really heard any negative things, and I'm very intrigued to pick it up because we're following a character who gets bullied very badly and they end up finding a portal to another world through their mirror, and they meet other kids that are going through something similar. At least I think our main character is younger. I just feel like it's going to discuss bullying and mental health in here, but it also has fantasy elements, so I'm very excited to pick this one up because I feel like it will be different from most things that I read. Then we have All Our Hidden Gifts by Caroline O'Donoghue. Then we have Wicked by Gregory Maguire. I've never seen the play. I really want to, I just haven't, and I've also never listened to the soundtrack. But I do know it's about Wizard of Oz, I know it's about Glinda and the Wicked Witch of the West, which I'm sure she has a name and it's not the Wicked Witch of the West, but All I know is it's about them. Next is Grave Mercy by Robin Lefevre. I think this is a trilogy, or there might be 4 books. I don't really remember much, but I do know that it has to do with assassin nuns. And our main character is running away from an arranged marriage. That's all I know about this one. Next is 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. I really want to read this, but then I started hearing a lot of mixed opinions on the second book in the duology. I think it's called A Dragon's Promise. So I don't know when I'll get to it. Some people have said that I don't really need to even read the second book, but I'm probably going to end up picking it up. But if I do, I probably won't buy it, and I'll just go to my library and see if they have a copy. Next is The Looking Glass Wars by Frank Better. And this is technically a book that I've read before, but it was in middle school, and I remember loving this series. This is an Alice in Wonderland retelling as well, but I don't remember much about it. This is another duology, The Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lynn Tan. Then we have another book that I've technically read, but it's been since middle school, and that is A Great and Terrible Beauty by Libba Bray. And this is the same author that wrote The Diviners. In this one, I know our main character goes to this boarding school. Something happened with her mom. There's a lot of supernatural elements in here. There's like a secret society or a cult situation, and that's all I really remember. I remember it being kind of bizarre, but I really loved this book, and I do want to reread it at some point. Next is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This is also a duology, but I've actually heard really good things about the second one. I think it's called Muse of Nightmares. I don't remember much. I just remember that it's a fantasy, and it was on my Amazon wish list, and one of my friends, Willow from Bookstagram, actually gifted this to me for Christmas, so I just haven't gotten to it yet, but I'm really excited to pick this one up soon. Next is a collection of Jane Austen novels, and this was actually gifted to me by my Grammy, and the only story in here that I've read is Pride and Prejudice. It's one of my favorite classics of all time, one of my favorite romances as well, and the 2 books in here that I still need to read are Emma and Sense and Sensibility. Now, the next few books that I'm going to share with you are all Stephen King books, which are these 2 stacks right here, which is a lot, I know. I read it as a freshman and became obsessed with his stories, so I started collecting his books, and a lot of these were actually gifted to me, or I found them at the thrift store. So some of them weren't really on my list that I really wanted to read necessarily, but now, years later, even though I still do like Stephen King's books, I don't know if I want to collect his books and not read them, because they take up so much space, you guys, especially these hardcovers. So I'm going to try my best to read as many of these as I can this year. That way, if I like them, I'll keep them. But if I don't really like them, or I don't think I'll pick them up again, I'm going to donate them. But let's just quickly get through all of these Stephen King books together. First is Cujo, a classic, and I don't know why I haven't read this one, especially because it's one of his smaller books, but I am hoping to get to it sometime this summer. Then we have Misery, which I have seen the movie and I really loved it, so I can only imagine how much better the book will be. Then we have Later. Next is The Dark Half. Then we have The Mist. Next is a semi-illustrated version of The Gunslinger. I know this is a very loved series by him. I don't have all of the books for this, but I found this version at a thrift store and I really wanted to get it. 1, because I like the cover, and 2, because there are some illustrations in here throughout, even though most of it is just written like a normal book. But most of his books are really big, so I don't know if this is actually the entirety of the first book or if they're like split up. At some point I will try and read that series, but I only have this and The Drawing of the Three, which is the 3rd book in the Dark Tower series. Then I have Firestarter. Then The Green Mile, which I found at a thrift store, and it has this cover, but this is what the actual book cover looks like. The Outsider, Full Dark, No Stars, Bag of Bones, Hearts in Atlantis, 4 Past Midnight, which I'm pretty sure this is a collection of stories, Desperation. Then I have The Stand, and this is actually a complete and uncut version of The Stand that my mom found at a thrift store for me. Next is The Dreamcatcher, and this is one of my favorite covers that I have of a Stephen King book, and I think this is another book that has multiple short stories in it. Then I have Insomnia, and then the last Stephen King book that I have is Under the Dome. Alright, next I have the first 3 books in the Throne of Glass series. I'm actually going to read the first one for sure in the month of March because it's my Discord's monthly buddy read. If you're interested in joining, I'm thinking this will be up with enough time for you to read along with me if you would like. I've never read a book by Sarah J. Maas before, and I know that her books are very, very loved, so I'm excited to get into this. Next is a Phantom of the Opera retelling, and this is Roseblood by A.G. Howard. Next is this really pretty edition of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, so it has the first 2. I definitely think there's more than just 2 books to the original Alice in Wonderland story. I feel like I had to have read these at some point, at least these 2 for sure, in school, just because Alice in Wonderland is one of my favorite stories ever. But I'm gonna put it on my physical TBR because I don't really remember the original material that well. So at some point I think it'll be really fun to just have like a cozy day and read this. Next is A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. Then I have The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Next is The Atlas Six by Olivia Blake, and I've heard really good things about this author. Here's my little story real quick. When I got this, it had just came out. Everyone was talking about how amazing it was, and I swear as soon as I bought it, that is when everyone started complaining about the book. So that put me off reading it for a little bit, and then a lot of people didn't like the other book that came out, and I think there's a third one now, not just 2. I think one's The Atlas Paradox, and I feel like there's some other book that came out with it. I don't know, but I am intrigued to try it just because, again, I've heard so many good things about this author. Just let me know in the comments what I should do. I don't want to unhaul it. I feel like I should give the book its chance, but if there is another book by this author that you enjoyed more than this one, let me know, because I'll just see if my library has it available. Next is the Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber. I did read the first book for a video on this channel actually, but I could never find the second book available in paperback because I owned it in paperback, and I knew I was gonna have to wait even longer for the third book to become available, so my mom got me all 3 in hardcover for my birthday. So I'm really excited to read it, and the first book did end on a cliffhanger, so I really want to know what happens next, and I'm thinking I might do a reading vlog for this where I read the whole trilogy, so if that's something you're interested in seeing, let me know. Next is The Cloisters by Katie Hayes. Next is this really beautiful edition of William Shakespeare's tragedies. There's 6 in here. 3 I've read already, and that's just because we were learning about Shakespeare in high school, but there's still 3 in here that I haven't gotten to yet. The 3 that I still need to read are Othello, Moor of Venice, King Lear, and Julius Caesar. So at some point I will get to them. Next is If You Could See the Sun by Anne Liang, and I'm really intrigued with this book. I know that it takes place at a boarding school. Our main character discovers that she can turn invisible, and in order to help pay for her schooling, she is having students like hire her to go spy on people and find out information. So I feel like this will be a very fun read. And the last 3 books on my physical TBR are the Shadow and Bone trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. I read the Six of Crows duology, gave both 5 stars, so I love what this author does. She's such a good writer, and this is still in the same universe, just a different cast of characters, and I know technically I should have read this trilogy before that duology, but I owned those 2 books, so I read them first, and I fell in love with them. So I'm really hoping that I fall in love with this trilogy, and I actually got this at a Books-A-Million when I was on vacation. It was my first time going to a Books-A-Million. I really liked it. Definitely very different than Barnes & Noble, but I'm so excited to have these, and it has this really nice, what do you even call this? Like a book cover to keep them in, and the covers are so pretty as well. But yeah, these are all of the books on my physical TBR, so I'm going to count all of these and let you know how many books I still need to read. Alright, so I just counted all of them. I have 63 physical books on my TBR, but that's not including the books that have more than one story in them either. So I have probably 70 to 75 stories that I need to read, but 63 physical books. So that's more than I thought, honestly. But yeah, so that's what I'm working with. And I think it's really good that I'm prioritizing this year books on my physical TBR and going to the library, because I do not need to be buying as many books as I have. I will allow myself to buy some here and there, but definitely not splurging all year on books, because this is getting out of hand. And I fear the day that I have over 100 books on my physical TBR, because then there's just no hope for me when that day happens. And I'm saying when that day happens because I am sure that that will happen one day. But that day is not today. So I'm doing good right now, and I'm going to try and keep it this way. That's going to be it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you've read any of the books on my physical TBR and what your thoughts were about them, whether you liked them or you didn't like them, or you had mixed opinions. And let me know if there's any books specifically that you really, really loved so I can bump them up on my TBR. If you're interested in following me on social media, I'll have it all linked down below in the description. I have a Bookstagram, my personal Instagram, as well as my Discord server if you want to join. And if you want to see more videos from me, I'll have my recent videos linked down below, as well as a playlist of all of my videos so you can check out more of my channel. I hope you guys are having a good day whenever you're watching this, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!